Traders Club, where you can learn how to make better decisions and more money copy trading. I'm Gavin McCauley. My name and username on eToro. Links to everything, including Discord and Facebook groups, are in the link tree in the show notes. On today's episode, we talk to a young, up-and-coming, crypto-strong PI. Here we go. Season 2, Episode 4 of Copytraders Club, and being enveloped in the comely bosom of the clubhouse this week is Relic, otherwise known as Claude Creevy. Young, South African, and with a growing legion of copiers behind him. As always on these PI episodes, the aim is to really get to know the investor deeper than elsewhere permits, and answer your question, listener, as to whether you should consider copying them. He's out of the limo and squinting in the bright sunlight like the night owl he is. Claude, hello. Welcome to Copytraders Club.
Hi, Gavin. It's good to be here. It's been a long time coming. I've been a fan of the show for quite a while, so I'm glad to finally make an appearance.
Well, we're delighted that you're appearing here today. And as a fan, Quickfire Questions, you know the drill.
Bring it on.
Username on eToro.
Relic.
Date you joined eToro.
May 2017.
Date you became a popular investor.
August 2018.
Year of birth.
1994.
Place of residence.
Bulgaria.
Profession.
Private equity analyst.
Briefly state what you aim to achieve on eToro.
Growing both my own and my copiers' wealth through rapidly expanding industries.
Name one of your investing heroes.
My godfather, who I was named after.
Name one of your favorite investing books.
I don't really read, so instead I mostly consume video and audio content.
That completes the formalities. Let's proceed now into the inner sanctum, the VIP section here at the Copytraders Clubhouse. A much sought after seat in the Copytraders Lounge has your name on it today. Claude Creevy, aka Rallek. Are you ready for this magical transition?
As ready as I'll ever be, Gavin.
Okay, Claude, so here we are now. You're seated in these splendid sofas in the Copytraders Lounge. Must be quite a thrill.
It really is. It's quite a sight to behold for sure.
Is it a far cry from the usual places you hang out in Bulgaria?
It's definitely something different. I would say I'm not used to being in such an exquisite environment, but yeah, I mean, I love it in Bulgaria nonetheless.
Well, tell us about Bulgaria. Why do you live there?
So I was actually looking for a reason to get out of South Africa for a while. I think, like most South Africans, at some point you kind of start to wonder if you want to stay in the country or if you want to seek greener pastures someplace else. So my initial plan was to actually go to the UK because my father was born there, and I ended up actually getting a work opportunity in Bulgaria. So I came here for 2 months. Checked it out a little bit and absolutely fell in love with the country. And I've been here ever since.
Yeah, I thought you were going to tell me a story of a digital nomad and that kind of lifestyle, because Bulgaria is very big for digital nomad types, isn't it?
What's a digital nomad?
You know, young people who work online and don't have to be in one specific place, so they move around every few months.
Oh, fair enough.
They make YouTube videos about how awesome their life is. And here's me in Bulgaria, and it's Europe's greatest secret, they all say. Low cost of living, good lifestyle, nice climate, lots of nature, fast internet, loads of cheap flights out of Sofia. And it has everything from ski regions to the beaches and diving of the Black Sea.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely, I fully agree with you. It is a sort of a hidden gem within Europe. Um, but unfortunately, my story isn't as glamorous as wanting to move across the world to seek a life of fortune and fame. It was more to have a stable environment where I can raise a family and not have to look over my shoulder.
What part of Bulgaria do you live in?
I live in Sofia.
Sofia. That's how it's pronounced, not Sophia.
Yeah.
Have you been to Bansko?
I went to Bansko when I initially first came here, just to visit the resort. But yeah, I ended up having a really rough time on the ski slopes.
And how much skiing is there in Bulgaria? Is there a big range?
There's quite a lot. I've only been to one ski resort, and I quickly learned that maybe skiing's not the sport or activity for me. It ended up me with in the side of a wall of snow.
Oh, well, I mean, you got to start somewhere. You just learn the basics and then it's all downhill from there.
Fair enough. Sometimes you tumble all the way down.
How about diving? Do you dive?
No, I've never been diving.
Because Bulgaria is on my to-do list to go and dive there because of the amazing wrecks they have just off the coast of Bulgaria. Some of which date from over 1,000 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, the really old ones are very, very deep, way beyond the limits of scuba. And there's very little oxygen in the water at that depth, in the Black Sea specifically, which means they're amazingly preserved. Even wood and rope that would normally disappear. Some wrecks from the Byzantine and Ottoman empires, including oar-powered Cossack raiding vessels. And they send, those submersibles down there to inspect them.
That sounds beautiful.
Incredible that these things have been discovered. Quite recently, 2017, they discovered a Roman vessel about 2,000 years old with mast, ropes, and tiller all intact. And discoveries like these have rewritten lots of the perceptions about ancient shipbuilding. So it's really living history.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. Maybe I need to check that out.
Well, don't go so deep that you see any of those, or it'll be the end of Rallek. So how did I come across you? First time I heard your name mentioned was by Bees84, when I was asking him about other PIs that he would consider to be, his peers, the same kind of approach in terms of crypto and what have you.
Yes.
Do you know him at all?
We're both in Jay's Discord group, but we haven't really spoken much.
Well, he's a bit like you also insofar as he's, very communicative PI. People like you and he take it to the next level, as we'll talk about later. Where does your name Rallek come from?
So that's actually an interesting story for myself. Basically, it's a made up gamer tag name. I was in the playground one day and an old friend of mine wanted me to play an online game with him. I needed to create a username and I didn't really know what to pick. So he went home, wrote a bunch of names on a piece of paper and came to school the next day and Relic was on there. So I picked it and it's sort of stuck ever since then, since I was I think 10, 11 years old. So I guess you could say that the true origins of the name will technically never really be known.
Is it a recognizable word or a name of something else, or did he just make it up?
That's a very good question. I think he just made it up.
Oh.
I'm not entirely sure though.
What's interesting, because you're like a crypto guy, and it almost sounds like a made-up name for a crypto guy, someone who's going to have laser eyes. Rallek sounds like kind of robotic or something, like a Dalek.
I suppose it does a little bit.
Yeah. It's kind of mysterious.
No, unfortunately, it's more just a little kid who wanted to play some online games and needed a username.
So you're quite a podcast listener. What other podcasts do you listen to?
I would say the main podcasts I listen to as well, and I try not to really miss episodes, are the CoinDesk podcasts, which are great um, for getting up to date with whatever's happening in the crypto space in general, as well as the All In podcast, which I also quite enjoy listening to every now and again. But I'd say those are the main ones, along with Copytraders Club as well.
Oh, good man. And what platform do you listen on?
Mostly Spotify, for the two aforementioned ones, and then I will mostly do YouTube for Copytraders Club.
Oh, interesting. Why is that?
Because I've got my YouTube alerts set up for Copytraders Club. So whenever there's a new episode put out, I immediately get alerted, and usually part of my morning routine is catching up on my YouTube videos from the previous day, whether it's various different market shows that are on YouTube. And a lot of the time when Copytraders Club comes up, then that's one of the first ones I'll listen to with my coffee in the morning.
Okay, that's quite a compliment. But in fact, what I was hoping to do was then encourage people to listen on audio platforms as opposed to YouTube.
I suppose it depends what you're doing. If you're like on YouTube, then it's probably easier. But otherwise, if you're on the way to work in the morning or going for a jog, then it's also quite nice to have a podcast in your ears.
What are the benefits of listening on an audio platform over YouTube?
I would say the major benefit for listening on an audio platform is you can actually minimize the content. So with YouTube, unless I think you've got like YouTube Premium or something, if you lock your phone screen or minimize the application, it stops the video. So if you're being active, then definitely Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Yeah, if you're on your phone, it's far better to be on an audio platform. As you say, you can close your screen down. You can do other things on your phone, and it continues to play, whereas YouTube will cut out.
Yeah.
So I recommend audio platforms over YouTube. For now, let us peer behind the curtain a little bit at this mysterious Rallek character. When you tell us something you're very bad at.
Sure. So one of the worst things that I do is I'm very, very bad at focusing on one thing at once. So that often leads to me juggling multiple balls at the same time, which can often result in me not having enough time to pursue all of them at the exact same time. So I'd definitely say that's one of the things I'm bad at.
Okay, let's have a question from the art of people. Can you pick a number between 1 and 10?
2.
Number 2. If you had enough money to retire and then some, what would you be doing?
I would probably be traveling Europe for the first bit of that time, making sure to see as many of the countries that I can. And then I'd also like to visit the Americas as well, and maybe some of Asia. I'd really love to visit Japan. I've heard the food is absolutely incredible, and the culture seems completely fascinating to me.
Yeah, you're a pretty young man. 1994 was the shocking answer when I asked your year of birth.
Correct, yeah. 27, turning 28 next weekend, actually.
Anyone who was born after Italia 90 amazes me that we could have anything in common. But here you go. You mentioned raising a family. Have you already got a family, or are you still young, free, and single?
Young, but not free and single. So there are plans of a family in the future. Most likely going to be Europe somewhere. So not truly decided on an exact location, but I'm fortunate enough to have European citizenship, so I can travel pretty freely within Europe.
How come you've got European citizenship from your dad?
Yes, I've got a British passport from my dad, an Italian passport from my mother, and a South African passport because I was born there.
The Italian one's probably more useful.
Yes.
Than the British one going forward. Okay, let's turn our attentions now to your bio. If I could ask you to read the section that begins, I'm an investor, and then I will cherry pick other things to ask you about within your bio, because it's quite long and it's difficult to divide.
Sure, sounds good. I'm an investor who deals mostly with US, EU, and China tech stocks, as well as cryptocurrency. I take a long-term approach to investments. However, I will make short-term plays if there are opportunities to be taken advantage of.
Okay, and let me cherry pick a few other things here. Stats. Last 3-year return is 300%. Last 3-year annualized return is 59%. Now, one subject I know we're going to talk about is you've been on longer than 3 years, and previous to that you had incredible results. So what's wrong with you? Don't you know you're supposed to be selling yourself, and you should be using the best possible stats you can, i.e. lifetime returns, because that'll make you look better to unsuspecting potential copiers. That's what they do at Black Star level. Why don't you learn from the top dogs?
Yeah, that's actually a point that's been raised quite a lot in the past, and it's one of the most common questions I get when I'm live streaming. The main reason I don't quote anything past my 3-year returns is because in 2017 and 2018, I was only on eToro for investing in crypto. So I was 100% invested in crypto. So those returns have nothing to do with my current strategy. And I think it would be completely disingenuous to quote those stats and sort of mislead copiers and potential copiers into historical returns that it may appear that I have actually achieved when it doesn't remotely resemble anything close to my current investment strategy.
Well, that's music to my ears. As you know, that's one of the rules of Copytraders Club, not to trust the annualized or lifetime returns that mean nothing for the strategy the copier is going to experience.
Exactly.
So good, man.
I don't want to mislead anyone at the end of the day.
Next bit, about me, private equity analyst for 5 years, investor on eToro since 2017. So you're still working as a private equity analyst? You're not full-time PI or anything?
Correct. I'm still working full-time as a private equity analyst. My goal obviously would be to go full-time PI at some point, but up until I can significantly justify the monthly income from eToro and giving up another source of income, I'm going to stay with the security of my current job.
Very wise. And sometimes with these crypto PIs, I wonder whether they are crypto guys who are reluctantly having to buy stocks and ETFs just to keep their risk score down, whereas what they really want to be doing is being pure crypto. But I guess if you're a private equity analyst, you've a foot in both camps.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the nice things about being exposed to so much private equity fund data is being able to see the impact that picking the right companies and assets in general can have on your overall returns. If you look at some of the top private equity funds in the world, they won't have 100% hit rates or even close to it with a lot of their investments. And sometimes you just need a few, whether it's 3 to 4 out of it, say a portfolio of 20 to do exceptionally well, and you can still completely outperform any of the benchmarks.
And you've passed your CC investment management level 4. That's as part of your job, right?
No, that was actually one of the requirements for eToro. At my current tier, I only need to do the level 3 exam. However, I thought, let me just get the level 4 exams out of the way so that if I'm ever lucky enough to come up for promotion to Elite Pro, then I won't have to worry about studying. So yeah, I did the CISI investment management level 4 exam. So I still need to do the UK regulation and professional integrity exam. I try to do it sort of just before the deadline came up, and I was a little bit rushed. So I ended up just missing out on passing that the first time. So I'm going to give it another go probably later this year.
It's very honest of you. Okay, let's move on to your pinned post. There's a sentence here, maybe you could read it. With over 5 years of experience.
Sure. With over 5 years experience as a private equity analyst, I have seen firsthand how picking the right companies and being patient over a few years can consistently beat the market. This is why I put a very large focus on fundamental analysis, fully understanding a company's financials, managerial situation, as well as growth potential before investing.
Okay, yes, your messaging is always very clear, I find. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about your communication with your copiers in a while. But in terms of your marketing, presentational approach, you're doing a lot of things right. It's almost like you've responded to the things you've learned from being a consumer of Copytraders Club and Felix Felix.
Yeah, I mean, those are probably two of my most favorite eToro related channels. At the end of the day, I want to provide as much communication and also not overstep any boundaries that may be there by promising like unrealistic or setting unrealistic expectations or just getting in trouble in general. I try to avoid conflict wherever possible.
Talking about setting realistic expectations, there's another great line in your pinned post which says, "This does not mean that there won't be negative months/years, as the decisions that I make aim to outperform the markets in the long term. That's why it's important to be patient and not expect instant gratification for copying my portfolio." So it's a point you make in your bio, in your pinned post, over and over again in your posts, in answer to copiers' questions. And it seems to work because despite some pretty nasty results in recent months, when I look at your copier graph, there's no great drop in copier numbers.
Yeah.
So do you think you've done an effective job in cultivating a culture of long-termism, patience, understanding of volatility among your copier group?
I think I've done probably the best job that I can. It is still a common question I do get. And I mean, you can probably see it on some of my most recent posts too, with copiers asking, why are you red for the past 2-3 months? Like what's going on? I'm having quite a large drawdown. And this is why I try and be as communicative as possible, because at the end of the day, I do have a very, very volatile portfolio. And that's the niche I'm trying to fill on eToro, where I don't necessarily need to be somebody's biggest portion of their investment. But I can be a way for them to invest in markets that they might not understand, but they still want to get involved in. So that's why I try and do it and word my posts in such a way and repeat it over and over again, so that nobody at a later stage can come back to me and say, well, Relic, you promised me 300% returns over the next 3 years. It's like, well, no, I didn't. I make sure to say past returns are not indicative of future results, as well as communicate as much as possible during those down times as well, and say why the market's dropping. There's a big difference between going through a drop in the market and doing nothing out of ignorance, rather than doing nothing as a strategy because you believe that certain things are maybe being over exaggerated, or there's too much emotion in the market at the time.
Okay, so speaking of returns, what period do you start counting your returns from, did you say?
I start counting them from the beginning of 2019, which is when I implemented my current strategy.
Okay, so 2019, 17.5%, 2020, 65.70%, and 2021, 145.27%. So this year you must be on course for 250%, if that pattern is to be continued. However, let's talk about the last few months. November was only just in the red. December was quite a heavy 8.63. And then January was quite a whopper, 16.67%. in the red, and February, well, we're in the middle of February now, so we'll see how that pans out. So, yeah, that's quite a lot for copiers to take. So I'm pretty impressed that they haven't fled in droves. But as you say, you've spelled it out to them, including the level of risk that you represent, which leads me on to the next question. Are you happy with your risk score?
I'm not happy with how risk is portrayed on the platform in general. I know that's a big talking point, especially amongst people like yourself as well as Felix. I would prefer it to be split into two categories, one being risk and one being volatility, where volatility plays a part within your overall risk score. So I would say if we were to say call it essentially what it is, which is a volatility score, I would say maybe I should be closer to 7.5. But overall, I do still believe my portfolio is less risky than a lot of the other portfolios with a lower risk score.
Okay, but you are running that line where the precipice of a risk score of 7 is probably always visible out of the corner of your eye. And you don't want to be copy blocked, obviously. Tell us, how do you cope with that? Are you always conscious of it?
It's something that's kind of there in the back of my mind the entire time. I'm very careful when I open new positions, because all you need to happen is open the wrong position, and that could send you over the barrier. So the biggest thing I do is just make sure that I'm within my own allocation that I mentioned earlier, with in terms of the percentages that I try and keep for each asset class, as well as not changing too much, especially during times of extreme volatility. If I say go and buy a dip in crypto, then that can also very, very easily send me above 7, which is the last thing I want to do.
A previous guest mentioned something associated with this area, and they were saying it would be great if prior to making a purchase, eToro could tell you what the result of that would be upon your risk score. I imagine you would welcome that.
Definitely, that would be amazing. But it's my understanding also that sometimes your risk can fluctuate without you even changing anything, due to them basing it mostly off of the beta of the asset itself. So if I'm, say, right on the brink of 7, and then there's mass amounts of volatility in the market, that can send me over, even though I haven't opened any new positions.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at copier numbers and assets under management. Copier numbers as of the time of recording, 1,016. Assets under management, somewhere between 2 and 5 million. It shows on your profile. And your copier graph is a picture of a steady climb. It's like a long-term graph of the S&P, up and to the right at an angle of about 30 degrees. No big editor's choice jumps, it seems, or sharp declines. No declines at all, really, which is pretty unusual. So that suggests to me that your growth as a PI is sustainable, and you're likely to become one of the bigger names on the platform. And why not? As mentioned before, you're marrying good results with doing everything else right. It's not often I praise someone like that, but there you go.
Thank you, Gavin. I really appreciate it.
Where do you think you are in your PI journey? Do you think you're starting out? When you go to bed at night, do you imagine 5,000 copiers, 10,000, black star, celebrity status?
Black Star is probably my biggest goal right now on eToro. I've always had a dream to become elite before there was Elite Pro. I remember when I first got onto the platform itself, and I saw the likes of Jay Nemesis and Yeppe, as well as Wesley, and then saw that green star next to their name, and that's all I wanted. So the day that I actually achieved that, it was a little bit emotional for me, because it was a goal I had for so many years, and then finally achieving that, it was definitely a major milestone in my own life, as well as my career on eToro. So with regards to my journey as a whole, I would love to become one of the big names. I'm a massive advocate for educating people on investing, as well as growing in a stable way, like you mentioned. It makes it a little bit more difficult sometimes because you don't have that explosive growth of, say, editor's choice or trending. So it's more of a grind, and maybe it's the competitive side of me, but I don't mind the grind. I'm quite a competitive person, so I want to be the best. I'd love to be up there with some of the better known elite pro PRs for sure.
Well, this reminds me of the conversation I had with S2.E4, Stephen Budgeon, about his grind and his long-term climb, not dissimilar to yours. Getting on editor's choice seems to be unlikely for PIs of your profile for whatever reason. But if you build it up the right way, the quality of copier you get organically is superior to the fly-by-nights who see your profile featured on the Discover page or whatever. So they may be harder to get, but they're easier to keep.
I would definitely agree with that. The community that I've managed to foster at the moment, they're absolutely incredible and very, very supportive. That also comes with quite a big responsibility, because you need to also make sure that your copiers, when they are as loyal as some of mine are, that they don't, say, attack other popular investors or people on the platform. That's one thing I've always tried to do, is keep my community as honest and friendly as possible. And I've pretty much got a zero tolerance, say when I'm doing a live stream, if someone's looking to incite any type of negativity towards another popular investor or person on the platform, I immediately just tell them, like, please don't do that. Rather just delete your comments. It shouldn't be about that. We don't need to step on each other in order to climb to the top. There's more than enough copiers to go around for everybody.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about communication then, in two areas. One is on eToro. You post a lot, for a start. What is the frequency of your posts, and how would you describe the content you post on eToro?
So I would say I aim to post nearly every single day. It's normally broken up between a post sort of about the general state of the markets, and depending on what is actually happening. So whether it's earnings season, I might highlight some of the companies in my portfolio that are busy releasing results. And then I'll try offset that with a post the next day, maybe being a YouTube video, then sort of a day on, day off of content about eToro and the investments themselves, as well as educational content that I like to post on YouTube.
So being active on eToro is an essential element of your self-promotion. Is that fair to say?
Definitely. I wouldn't have nearly close to the amounts of growth I've had if I wasn't very active on the platform. I know quite a few copiers. They might not like too much communication, but from my own personal experience, the vast majority actually do like the consistent updates. It provides a way for them to reach out in the comments as well and ask any questions that they do have. So I think that's the main reason I haven't had such a fall off during the rough times. It's because there's been a few copiers who've said to me, they've asked a question, I've responded and answered it, and sort of offered some explanation as to what's going on and what could be expected. And it's helped calm them down a bit. And they're like, okay, I was going to leave, but now I see that you've got it under control. You know what's going on in the macro environment. And I think a lot of them prefer that to maybe the once a month posts or once every 2-3 months posts that some other PIs might do.
You're also communicative via your videos on YouTube. which are mostly about crypto, it seems to me. You're sitting there with your big headphones on. It looks like it's the middle of the night. And there's some very fast-paced dance music in the background, deeply unsettling. Your videos are also quite short. There's quite a lot of little shorts. What's your plan for your YouTube channel?
YouTube's one of the main areas I want to put a lot more focus into. The main reason is I think it's actually a very, very good platform to bring people over to eToro and introduce them to copy trading as a whole. So in general, I try and form my YouTube content more around educational pieces. Any time I have a thought in a live stream that I think somebody might find valuable and they might be able to learn something from it, then I'll clip that out, do some editing on it, and upload it to YouTube. I would like to do some more dedicated YouTube content where it's not just my live streams, but I've been really, really struggling to find the time to do all of that with juggling a full-time job and all of that.
Well, you found the time to make a few videos with Peter Komolafe from the YouTube channel Conversation of Money.
Correct.
Now, he's done one video that kind of rubbed me up the wrong way. Don't know if you know the one I'm talking about, but he was selling it as a copy trading experiment. He's going to put his own money in. He's going to copy trade. It'll be for all his followers to gauge whether copy trading's any good or not. And then he proceeds to copy one person who's been a total disaster since, who I won't name, but he copied him because he was elite or elite pro. He was since demoted to champion. He copied him because he saw his last 7 days risk score was 4. He's now 7 and copy blocked. He's been ill and absent from his feed. And since this copy was started, I think he must have lost over 30% and possibly even hit the copy stop loss of 60. And I complained about this so-called experiment at the time, saying it was amateurish and beginnerish, and Peter replied, so he was quoting his qualifications and stuff and his experience as an investor. Now, I don't doubt his credentials, but clearly there's a mountain of evidence that shows that's not an expert approach to copy trading. Certainly not a scientific experiment as to whether it's any good or not. And I fear his followers will see this disaster and conclude that copy trading is a waste of time. In reality, the experiment was a waste of time. Your response, please.
I'm not really sure of the particular video. I haven't seen it myself. Most of the time, I will jump on Pete's live streams to offer some insight into the cryptocurrency markets and share my thoughts as to what's going on in general. So I can't really offer much insight into that specific case as I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, well, it's just that one video I found a bit annoying. You know, when you're going through YouTube and you see people, you know, there's lots of is eToro a scam videos, and they're just exhausting because it's usually somebody's misunderstood what's going on. So when you see an intelligent investor type professing to do an experiment to show people whether copy trading's worth the time or not, and the experiment is, you know, just copying one person, which nobody in their right mind does really. And copying at the top. I mean, he was basically buying Peloton at the top and things like that through this PI.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure on that specific case, but I know pretty much all of Pete's other content that I've seen has been really helpful with the objective to also help educate people. So I'll need to go back and look at that specific one, but I'm not familiar with it right now.
Well, there's loads of comments from Copytraders Club underneath, which will probably give you cause to titter.
Do you copy?
Do you copy?
Do you copy?
Do you copy? Copytraders Club.
Copytraders Club.
Do you copy?
Do you copy?
Do you copy?
Do you copy? Copytraders Club.
Copytraders Club.
Let's turn our attentions to your portfolio now, Claude. Asset class allocation: crypto 46%, stocks 34%, ETFs 20%, rounded up. That accounts for 100% of what you have invested. And currently you have a cash position of 5%.
Yes, that's very much within my general bounds of the allocation I try and keep. I would have liked to obviously have a bit big of a large cash position going into the recent drops that we had, especially in the crypto market. But unfortunately, it was one of those situations where I think it ended up catching most people off guard at how suddenly and drastically it did end up actually dropping from its highs.
So your top 4 positions are all crypto: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Polkadot, and Cardano, unless things have changed in the last couple of days.
That sounds about right.
They account for over 25% of your invested amount. So no wonder your risk score is pretty high. I was wondering, in America, they only have copy trading for crypto PIs currently.
Yes.
How do they manage to remain copyable?
So it's my understanding that there's 2 separate popular investor programs, and the one in the US, I think the limits on being copyable might be a risk of, say, 7 or 8. I'm speaking under correction here, but I think you can still be copied with a risk score of 8. But I know that you can definitely be copied with a risk score of 7 in the US.
Okay, so the rules are a bit less stringent there, so they can be copied.
Yes, and they also have the old sort of stars as well. If you go through a list of some of the PIs, you'll see that yellow star, which I think was called Rising Star back in the day.
Well, I hope to have some American PIs on later in the season, so that'll be fun to talk to them as eToro gets a toehold.
That'll definitely be interesting to see how things operate from their side.
Let's talk about how cryptos operate on eToro. Does it frustrate you that cryptos only seem to make it onto the platform after they've blown up significantly?
Yes, this is probably one of my biggest frustrations. Funny enough, I was actually having a conversation with Jay on Twitter yesterday, I believe, where we were discussing some of the recent projects which are either on eToro that had a massive run before they were actually added, and some others that have not yet been added, which recently had quite a large run. The likes of Crow, which is Crypto.com's exchange token, similar to BNB, as well as a crypto known as Terra Luna, which also had a massive rally. And I was looking to invest in that a couple months ago, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that on eToro because it wasn't yet added to the platform. But another example of some that have rallied quite a lot, where I was speaking about them months before they were actually added, and it was kind of frustrating that we couldn't get them. Another one that comes to mind is Solana. I've been a massive fan of Solana for a long time now, and that did like 5 to 10x. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to bring my copiers along for the ride there.
Let's have a quick look at the stocks that you own. If I run my eye down the list, Baidu, Apple, Google, Amazon, Baba. Okay, we get the picture. ETFs account for almost 20% of your portfolio. What role does the block of ETFs play for you?
So the ETFs in my portfolio look to add a little bit of stability to the volatile nature of my portfolio. At the end of the day, most indices, they perform extremely well over a very long period of time. And I also want that sort of that cushion to the volatility of the crypto and the tech stocks that I do have.
So your ETFs are indices from various geographies, basically.
Correct. So they're index-based ETFs. I believe there's Germany, China, NASDAQ, and there may be one or two more others, mainly just tracking some of the global markets in general.
So it provides a bit of ballast to your portfolio.
Exactly.
Desync, there's a little desync here and there, but nothing out of control, as we would expect from such a conscientious PI. The desync seems to be quite well managed. Now, you have several other cryptos other than the 4 that I mentioned a moment ago. Yes, this message came in from a listener, Long Tongue Joe 69, who wanted me to talk to you about Atom. He sounds like a lovely fellow. Now, I'm not a crypto expert, Claude, as you know, but I'll make a fumbling attempt to talk crypto with you now, particularly my rudimentary understanding of Atom. A bear might point to these negatives. Firstly, development. Many of the 2022 milestones were meant to be completed last year. They claim to have over 1,000 developers, the third largest behind Ethereum and Polkadot, but the concern is that a large number of these are working not on the Cosmos blockchain itself, but on the ecosystem projects like Osmosis. Am I impressing you with my knowledge here?
You are.
Cosmos faces competition, especially from within its own ecosystem. The utility of the Atom coin is, in fact, very limited. It isn't used to pay for transaction fees on all the chains, so the supply-demand ratio is not looking favorable. They need to create more demand drivers for the Atom coin and/or impose limits on the supply of new coins. Would such a bear give you pause?
I definitely think these are valid concerns, and it's something that we see quite frequently within the cryptocurrency market as a whole. Just the significant rate at which technologies change and various new projects sort of spring up as well. So I would say yes, that some of those are valid concerns, but as a whole, I still think Cosmos is an amazing project, and sort of opening it up where you've got a situation of sort of like an internet of blockchains, allowing that communication between multiple other projects within the sector too. It is something that is quite exciting. Will Cosmos be the ultimate winner at the end of the day? I don't think anybody can say yes or no to that question. That's where I try and also sort of diversify into each of those areas too. Not only say investing in one communication-based crypto between other blockchains, but multiple, allowing for the best opportunity to catch one of those winners. It's sort of coming back to what I mentioned about some of the venture capital funds that I've seen over the years, where you don't need all of the positions in your portfolio to be winners. You just need a few of them to come out on top, and that can provide outstanding returns over a long period of time.
Is another such project that you're referring to there Polkadot?
It is.
Now, surely the difference between the two is as follows. Polkadot is interoperable, but mainly in its own ecosystem, unlike Cosmos. Cosmos does support standardized chain communication protocols. Does that not make Cosmos a superior project?
It comes down to the niche that they're trying to fulfill. And I don't think something like Polkadot and something like Cosmos are fully comparable in a way. The reason why I sort of look to invest in both is to sort of have the best opportunity of success between the two. So while they do look to actually fulfill those different niches, yes, both of them essentially could fall out of favor over time, and both of them could actually end up succeeding as well. But that's why it's also about understanding the up and coming projects as well. So if anything additional, say, added to eToro, which looks to fill similar niches, then reevaluating the portfolio as a whole and looking at, okay, is this still the best solution? And say, should it be 3% of the portfolio? Maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe it should be 1 or 0.5% of the portfolio. So that's the part of crypto where it's changing so quickly that if you're not on top of it in terms of the level of projects, say, being added to a platform like eToro, you can get caught out very, very quickly. Kind of like with investing in, say, some of the meme coins or the dead projects. There's a lot of cryptos which I've invested in that have had a similar fate over the years, where I look back at it now and I'm like, due to its loss of favor within their own communities, it's not looking like the rosy investment that it did when I initially bought it. And that's fine. You're not only going to pick winners. You're not always going to have a 100% hit rate. But for now, I'm still relatively happy with the state of my crypto portfolio as a whole and the projects that I am invested in.
Well, hopefully Long Tongue Joe is happy with that discussion.
Let's hope so.
Okay, Claude, tell us about your worst ever investment.
So I would probably put this down to two different. I'll give you one stock investment and one crypto. So the worst stock investment I ever made was in a pharmaceutical company called Corbus. They ended up having a failed drug trial, which resulted in a 90% drop in their share price. So that was a very, very tough pill to swallow. Excuse the pun, but at the end of the day, like I've mentioned, you're going to have losers, and that's just part of it. So it's about recognizing your losers, not sitting there waiting for them to eventually recover when they might not, and sometimes making the difficult decision to take the loss. So in that case, I took that loss. Another investment I wasn't too happy with that I did a while back was an investment in a cryptocurrency called EOS. So there was essentially a situation where it looked like the community was getting riled up again and development was coming back to the project, but that ended up sort of just being smoke where there was no fire. So as a result, I ended up taking quite a knock on that too, and actually learned a valuable lesson from that is if you don't sort of believe in the project at the foundation, don't sort of get caught up in the potential hype. So yeah, that was a tough one to also realize as a bad investment.
Did you stay away from the binary risk of healthcare companies developing new products as well since Corbus?
Yes, I used to trade quite a lot in another pharmaceutical company called Editas, and that was probably one of my more successful pharmaceutical companies, more because for a long period of time they were ranging, and that range itself was very, very wide. So I liked the company for a long-term buy, but due to the massive swings in its price, I sort of used that as an opportunity to buy when it reached the bottom of its channel, wait until it got close to the top, sell out, wait for it to come back down, then buy back at the bottom of the channel. And it was one of those situations where I didn't mind if it fell through the channel because I wanted the company anyway. But since then, I haven't invested in pharmaceutical companies in quite a long time. I would say it's definitely more on the stressful side, especially when they have drug trials busy going on.
Just checking your portfolio here for a second to see if any of the stocks you own are crypto adjacent. Coinbase, MicroStrategy, of course.
Yes.
Those are probably the two main ones, right?
Exactly, yeah. Those are the two main ones.
I was wondering, did you hold any miners or anything like that?
No, I haven't invested in any crypto mining companies.
That would push you over the risk score, I imagine.
Probably. It's one of those things I've got to be very, very careful about adding completely new positions like that.
Okay, so we may have already kind of dealt with this area to some extent, but it does no harm to spell it out again. Who should copy Relic?
So I would say prospective copiers who have a long-term time horizon and a bit of an appetite for volatility. Preferably not checking eToro every single moment there's a massive move in the market, because at the end of the day, I think you should rather let the sleepless nights fall on me and not have to worry about them yourself.
Funny you should say that. One thing I was going to mention, which I didn't out of kindness, when I was describing your YouTube videos, I was going to say you look like you need a good night's sleep in a lot of the videos. Not only do they look like they were shot at 2 a.m., but some of them I just think to myself, oh, get some rest, man. I know cryptos are 24/7, but do you get much sleep?
Yeah, I sleep very well. I get a full 8 to 10 hours pretty much every night. It's more just, I think, the hours I work. So I'll usually sleep quite late in the mornings because I start work quite late as well. So yeah, I guess it comes down to many hours in front of a screen. But otherwise, yeah, I'm healthy. My sleep's good. I enjoy working hard and grinding with things that I love, and eToro and crypto is one of those things.
It may also be your lighting or something, because at the moment you look fine. It's just in some of your YouTube videos you do look tired, but maybe you were. Who knows? Anyway.
It could have been during the exams.
Okay.
The eToro exams. That was a very tough period.
Are your copiers young?
From what I've seen, it's a bit of a mixture. So I don't want to sort of put them into a box and say my copiers are, say, between the ages of X and Y. It's actually surprising how many older people like actually do copy me, especially with the level of volatility I do have. But I don't know if I could say that, yes, most of them are young or most of them are not young.
It's funny, on the last show when I was talking to Nikos, he mentioned that his copier age group was a little bit older, and we had a laugh at the thought of there being 70-year-old copy traders on eToro. And then I got an email from a listener, from David, to say that he indeed is a septuagenarian copy trader.
Oh, nice.
So they're definitely out there.
Yeah, that's refreshing to hear, actually.
And in fact, he made an interesting point that people often say, when you're young, take loads of risks, you've time to earn it back again. When you're older, don't, have your money in safe bets because, you don't want to blow your stack, sort of thing. And he was saying it kind of works the opposite way too. When you're older, you may as well roll the dice.
Yeah, I don't see why not. But you got to be a little bit careful. If you've got the stomach for it, then sure. But I suppose you wouldn't want it to put too many extra years on.
No, I suppose if it works like that, if you're playing with sort of fun money,
yeah,
then you want to roll the dice. But if it's everything that's to see you through your years of retirement, a 16.6% down month might give you palpitations.
For sure.
So you also mentioned something earlier about your role in a copy portfolio. Can you describe what that portfolio would look like with you in it?
So I would say, in terms of my role in an overall copy portfolio, I don't think I should be the biggest position, especially not for, say, those who are a little bit more averse to risk. So I would say maybe 5 to 15 to 20% in me at most, if you want some exposure into the crypto market, but not wanting sort of too much of that volatility along the way. I look to fill that gap for people who do want to get involved in the sector, but who might not know which projects are good and which projects are not so great. So yeah, it's the biggest reason I've said I will never invest in meme coins on eToro. I've got no interest in putting my copiers through that, because I don't feel there's any fundamental value within that itself. And it's more just complete speculation at the end of the day, which is not what I'm looking to do.
Okay, so if you were a copier, how many PIs would you have?
I would probably have between 4 and 5. Obviously, depending on the type of PI and the different sectors that they invest in.
Other than getting cryptos onto eToro a bit earlier in the piece, what other key changes would you like to see on eToro?
I've got a list of so many changes I would love for them to add, which I think would make the entire copier experience a lot better, as well as sort of just the usability of the platform too. So I'd say the first one's probably more of just like a user interface change, which would be dark mode, especially for someone who spends a lot of time on the platform at night. So that can be quite blinding, having that luminescent white light screaming back at you. Then I'd also probably implement the ability to copy current value and not invested value. I think that would solve the entire desync issue and make everyone's life a hell of a lot easier in terms of managing that desync.
There must be lots of good reasons why that isn't the case that we haven't thought of, because that's such an obvious change that surely they would have done it.
I'm not sure. I wish they could just add an option. Do you want to copy the invested value or do you want to copy the current value? I think giving the copiers that choice would make everyone's life a lot easier.
Be twice as complicated after that.
True. It does make things a little bit more complicated. I've got some other items as well if you want me to touch on some of those.
Sure, far away.
Sure. Another change I'd like to see is the ability to add funds without impacting copiers. So almost copying your own portfolio with additional funds, so that it doesn't also throw off that desync. I don't like adding funds myself, and the only time I do it is when I'm in a situation that I need to as an equity requirement as part of the Popular Investor program. Additionally, I think plagiarism detection on the site is much needed to prevent sort of copying and pasting of articles and passing them off as your own. I think that is a bit of an issue that we tend to see every now and again. I've even had a few of my own historical posts plagiarized and then just reposted. But thankfully, copiers have alerted me to it, and I've been able to have them taken down.
There's even people copying PI's portfolios practically. I spotted one and alerted Robert Merck to it. I was looking at somebody's portfolio and I thought, wow, he has all of the same things as Robert Merck. I told Robert about it and he said that guy has also rehashed some of Robert's videos as his own videos.
Wow.
So it's getting beyond a joke.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think with more and more tools like Bullsheet that allow you to put notifications on PI trades, it makes it a lot easier for people to copy other PI strategies and pass them off as their own too, because you're literally getting alerted every time they open or close a position.
Yeah, it's got to be policed, hasn't it?
For sure.
What other PI would you say you know best on a personal level?
The two I would say I speak most frequently with are J Nemesis and Falzix. Every now and again, we have a Popular Investor call where we'll share some of our ideas, chat about the state of the markets, and just hang out on a Friday evening when the markets close.
The three of you?
It's open to most Popular Investors, but not many actually end up joining, which is a shame, because it would be nice to get to know a lot more people in the space.
But maybe some are out on a Friday night, living their lives.
Potentially for those of us who don't often have plans on a Friday evening.
Have you ever met another PI in real life?
No, I'd really love to. I think if I'm given the opportunity to go to an eToro event, I will definitely make the effort to do so. Yeah, most of the time I think they happen in countries around Europe, so I can easily hop on a plane and be there in a few hours.
Yeah, they're bound to start having those now that coronavirus is a thing of the past.
Hopefully.
Do you know what the final question is?
What's the question you'd
like to have been asked?
Yes.
Have you prepared a response?
I was sort of just going to see how the conversation went, but I suppose for me it would be, what is my best investment? Because we didn't touch on that.
Did I not ask best and worst? Only worst?
Only worst.
I'm so negative. Okay, hit me with your best investment.
So I would say my best two investments that I've made on eToro are probably Ethereum and AMD. I've been riding the AMD wave since it was about $11 a share. I remember driving home from work the one day and having my phone on my dashboard with AMD's share price just hovering around 11 and thinking this is absolutely absurd. So that's when I started getting involved there. Unfortunately, if I didn't take so much profit along the way, I would have made far more than I did end up making. And then I would also say Ethereum. So been investing in Ethereum since it was down to like between $100 and $300 per Ethereum. So I'm very, very happy with how that's panned out too.
And are you expecting the flippening?
I certainly am expecting the flippening. Not entirely sure when it will happen. I'd like to see it happen somewhere towards the end of this year, and maybe sometime next year. That would be probably the most bull case situation that I could think of. Might be a bit optimistic, but it would be welcomed.
Well, Claude, for the listener who may not be, a crypto head like you and I, what is the flippening?
So the flippening is essentially where Ethereum's market cap surpasses Bitcoin's market cap, and Bitcoin's dethroned as the crypto king, I would say.
Well, the crypto king, that's a good expression to use as we wrap up the conversation.
Are you too kind?
Well, it's been very nice to get to know you. Thank you very much for dropping by.
Thanks for having me on, Gavin. I really, really appreciate it. It's been an interesting talk for sure.
And, as I said before, you're doing so many things right. So it wouldn't surprise me if you did scale the heights of the PI program and become a bigger name. So far, as I say, your copier graph is up and to the right, and I expect to see that continue.
That'd be awesome. That's all I could really hope for, to be honest.
Okay, all the very best, Claude. Good luck.
Thanks, Gavin. Have a good one.
There you have it, listener. That was Rallek, Claude Michael Creevy. A good example to aspiring PIs, I think, in terms of how to build a solid foundation of copiers. How much he can build on those foundations remains to be seen. I don't think J Nemesis is worried about the pippening taking place anytime soon. That's all from me. See you on Discord and Facebook. Until next time we meet at Copytraders Club, I wish you many happy returns. Obviously, anything here in this podcast for entertainment only, not financial advice. Do your own research. This is just generic chit chat. We don't know your individual circumstances, etc., and so forth.